We are back again on Salud with Robert Gardner. We have a Superthing coffee today, which is a coffee roasting company here in Austin, Texas, that I really enjoy. I will probably be ordering more from this specific company. The more I've looked at their website, it's a little bit more pricey than Third Coast, but they've got some additional, I don't know, artisanal coffees that aren't available elsewhere. So they look pretty interesting. We are going to try out today a coffee that is no longer listed on their website. I've had this long enough that it's no longer listed. And in fact, if you go to superthingcoffee.com, I believe that they allow you to order online, by the way, if you want to have this stuff shipped. So I really like the bags and like the thematic thing they've got going, which is kind of interesting. They got the different coffees, these two blends, Power Button, Tractor Beam. Then we start getting into more specifics. So Finca Las Moras is a honey processed Honduras. Guatemala, anaerobic Colombia, it was called El Silencio. When I went through to look for the coffee I've got, which is Juan Felipe, this is no longer listed. So apparently this was like temporary coffee. The closest they've got is the El Silencio, this anaerobic Colombia. And when I pull this up, it's got some different information than the Juan Felipe does. But I'll go ahead and take a look at what my bag of coffee says after I put on my reading glasses. So it's from Caldas region of Colombia. It's grown in elevation. Who knows? I have to be told the elevation of the coffee that was grown for me. Yes, was 1,800 to 2,100 meters. The producer is Juan Felipe Aristizabal. Aristizabal. Interesting. The variety, it says Caturra, Colombia, Castillo. The process on my bag is a 72-hour anaerobic. 72-hour anaerobic. And the only thing I know about the anaerobic is apparently in some way it's being processed without oxygen. And I'm not exactly sure if that refers to the fruit itself or somehow how it's produced. If you look at Colombia El Silencio anaerobic, it says that this is got tasting notes, dark chocolate strawberry shrub, 10-ounce bag. Let's go here. Is there more information? This lot undergoes anaerobic tank fermentation for 48 hours at 28 degrees. We love the profile of this coffee, and the hard work from Robinson Rivera and his team is exceedingly clear. And see, slightly different variation on the coffee that I have, but you get an idea from their website of what's going on, or what they're doing. I'm going to go ahead and smell just the beans themselves and see how they are. And again, I'll probably be reordering. I want to try some of the other ones they've got. It reminds me almost of like Raisinets, some sort of candy. I mean, there's still coffee tones, but it's like, I think if you did a blind smell test and you said, hey, I'd go, what kind of like, is that like caramel toffee? Is that like some kind of candy? It's got fruity notes that remind me of like prunes or raisins. Deep, rich, luscious. I've talked before about how with Third Coast Coffee Roasting Company, I feel like Colombian coffees have a fairly similar profile as far as like their smell and flavor. I think this might break it, but I don't know the anaerobic process when it's processing the beans. I don't know exactly what it does. I'd have to do more research on that specifically. Let me see if there's anything else listed. One of our goals is to dedicate some of our lineup to coffees that push boundaries. This anaerobic process Colombia from producer Robinson Rivera definitely fits the bill. It's deeply dark chocolate and hugely fruity while funky, still being accessible and balanced. Overall, it is a great example of innovation in processing. Only Castillo is cultivated on the 6 hectares of growing area on this farm. The producer, Robinson Riveras, has been growing coffee for 18 years. For 5 years, he's been part of the Asociación del Café, Cafecultores del Centro del Cauca por la Paz, a nonprofit organization that was created in 2016 in Cauca. It's dedicated to improving coffee quality to better ensure better pay for the farmers there. This lot undergoes the anaerobic tank fermentation for 48 hours at 28 degrees. Oh, that's another thing. Even if I talk about the price of the coffee, do you ever hear me complain about what coffee farmers are paid? No, because I'm an American and we don't grow coffee here and we have no idea what coffee people are paid. However, do I want to think that my beans are sourced unethically? Exactly. This isn't even something I need. This is something that improves my life. So thank you to the farmers there in Colombia. But yeah, fruity. It's got notes of again, it's almost like raisinette, prunes, raisins, maybe like dried fruit, like dried cherries. I might pick up a note of. Let's go ahead and try the coffee itself. I'm gonna bring it over and then we'll sample it. I love the way the beans smell. I'm really excited to try this and see this anaerobic. Now that I know that's part of the process, if I have more anaerobic coffees, I may be able to judge, is it something about the anaerobic process that is facilitating some of the flavors that I particularly like? And this is in my Chemex. If you decide you want to pick up one of these, by the way, there should be links down below the video here on YouTube, so you can pick that up. I'll also try to put a link to Superthing, which is superthingcoffee.com. You can check them out to be able to see what they've got available and purchase coffee beans for yourself. This is kind of like rich. It almost reminds me of like bourbon or brandy. It's like it's not just coffee, not just 50% on the 50% on the back end is just coffee. But the up front, like I said, like what coffee reminds me of bourbon? It's not as it doesn't the nose is not as fruity as what I had from just the smell. On the beans, the smell on the coffee itself is a little bit more 50%, just, standardized, I'd say standard coffee. Man, that is just wow. Okay, I mean, it's grown in Colombia. So you've got high mountainous regions. It could be grown at wildly different elevation or soil. And then I don't know, how diverse is the Colombian coffee? I mean, they have the climate that would allow them to grow coffee in such a rich, lush region. But I really wonder what's possible. I'm assuming it's the anaerobic process, but the flavor profile is like amazingly rich. It's almost like tart. Um, the last 20% I start to get some bitter notes, but it's it's tart and fruity. It makes me think of like fruit roll-ups, something along those lines. It's like it almost makes me pucker just a little bit. Like there's a little bit of a citrus to it, and it's not just like citrus in the nose or the flavor, It's more like the way my mouth feels from like acidity. I mean, it's slightly sour. It's almost like having a sour beer. Um, and so the anaerobic process when they're fermenting the fruit. So you got the coffee bean. I'm just going off of anaerobic here. So you've got the coffee bean. The coffee bean is surrounded by the coffee fruit, and then it's some of the natural process, which I'm assuming anaerobic is what this is referring to. They're fermenting. Yeah, it says it's undergoes anaerobic tank fermentation for 48 hours at 28 degrees. So I think they're allowing it to ferment in the tank without oxygen for, in this case, it was 72 hours because of this particular bag. Yeah, this is the 72-hour anaerobic, the Juan Felipe, in comparison to the other. So, tasting notes. Star Nursery. What is that? Interesting. Dark chocolate, strawberry shrub, hibiscus, and lemon lime soda. Yeah. Yeah, I get not as much. I wonder what strawberry shrub is. But yeah, I do pick up some of the notes. I like it that they mentioned the lemon lime soda. It's kind of nice to see that I'm picking up some of the notes. Though mine were a little bit, I don't get as much dark chocolate. I find it very interesting that the coffee itself, like, it has that sour note. I'm not used to that. It's a very rich and smooth. If you told me this was from Colombia, I would be like, what? Like, I've never had a Colombian coffee with a flavor profile like that at all. I'm really interested to see what else I can find on Superthing's website. I did notice that they have I think I mentioned this last time, they've got a subscription, which I'm like, eyeing it because I'm like, well, I'm a good person. I deserve to have a coffee subscription where they pick out what coffee I get and get it delivered to me. Which I enjoy. I think that's a great. I'm a fan of subscription services generally. I think that it's good for business. It's a recurring business. But this is pretty superb. Let me go ahead and pour a full cup. I'm going to add some cream. Any of the bitter notes are going to be dampened by the little bit of milk sugar and the cream. And I'm interested to see how this is going to go. But overall, not enough good things to say about this. This is actually one of the more interesting coffees I've had recently. The Blue Mountain coffee from Jamaica, when I have it now, still has one of the deepest and richest overall flavor profiles, I think, of any coffee I've had. But I'm still debating to myself whether it's worth $70 a bag. It just seems like a little bit much, but it's just because of, what I'm used to paying. Okay, if for some reason you do not like sour, my guess is the anaerobic fermentation process is causing some of those sour notes. And when I say sour, it's the same thing as like a sour beer. Well, where the coffee's at? There we go. It's probably producing some of those sour notes, but I think it's on purpose. This is absolutely not something you'll want if you don't like those sour notes in the flavor profile. If that doesn't work for you, I'd probably go with something else. Even adding the cream and that little bit of milk sugar, it's still got, man, it's crazy because the cream does sweeten it a bit, but the back end is still that sour sort of raisinette flavor with those little bit of citrus notes in the background. Like that's the craziest flavor profile. Not enough good things to say. I don't know. I don't think this would be necessarily my favorite, but I think as, a burgeoning coffee snob, I think this is a must try. This is really interesting to me to sample more and also to sample it more in the context of a review to see what I like and don't like. It's just super interesting to realize that a coffee can have a set of flavor profiles that you just don't, in my head, I don't think of coffee that way. Like wine, super diverse. But like coffee, I don't think of it as being as broad and rich as it apparently likely is. So I have to continue sampling and see what else is out there. Thank you so much to Superthing Coffee here in Austin, Texas. If anybody at the company, one of your roasters, somebody wants to have me on the be on my podcast, do some coffee reviews with me, I'd be happy to do that. By the way, I like learning more about the artisans who are producing the products that I consume. And thank you so much for producing this here in Austin, Texas. Again, you can find them at superthingcoffee.com. And I will see you again on Salud with Robert Gardner. You guys have a great one.